So, Keith, thank you so much for coming on. How's things with you?
Good. I'm not enjoying the cold weather still. I feel like it's been a very long winter. Business is just starting to pick up though, so it's getting better and better.
Amazing. It was absolutely freezing yesterday. It actually looked sunny where I was, but it was freezing. But anyway, if you can give me a sort of brief breakdown, I don't want to stay on it too long, of what you did prior to property. I know you were ex-copper.
Yeah.
So
I wasn't going to mention that. Cheers. Yeah. That's very divisive straight away. Yeah. Yeah.
So give us a breakdown of that if you can.
Yeah. So I was exactly that for 9 years. Enjoyed it while I was there, truthfully. Learned a ton about how to interact with people, different struggles for different people. Felt like I genuinely made a difference. Yeah. But at the same time, I knew that wasn't for me full time. Yeah. Mentally, it just wasn't healthy for anybody. I tried out a few different things. I tried selling on Amazon through FBA. I got banned from Amazon, which I probably won't go too far into, but I got banned from Amazon. I tried basketball media, which I did quite well and loved, massively passionate about it. But I was running all of these things alongside having a job. And when your job is unpredictable at best, and then to insert those extra things, I was working like 16-hour, 18-hour days in total. Yeah, that was a lot. Yeah. And then property it's my guiding light, saving light. Yeah, it was the best thing.
And how did property come into your life then?
My wife, truthfully, I'll always be honest about this. I just piggybacked off her. She got involved in it. She did property training. Like, she had got her own struggles at the time, so we both worked in London, and she was struggling for a while. With what she was doing, so she came out of that and she was looking at property as an avenue to get out. Went on training, paid for training, did all of the kind of courses, and was doing it successfully. And I wasn't that interested in it, but I could support her in it. So I was coming up north with her. We were doing viewings together. I was putting in offers. Any kind of break in my shift that I had, which was very rare, I'd be booking viewings. I'd be putting in offers, trying to organise trips up north, all of that. And so I just piggybacked off her, and then it got to the point where she was able to leave her job via cash flow. And it's stereotypical, but we were on our honeymoon actually in the Maldives, very nice. And then as we were coming back, I said, I don't want to go back to work. Like, I had that feeling of, this is not for me anymore. Like, I've tried so many things. What am I going to do? And she just said, like, just do what I'm doing. And it made perfect sense. Yeah. Like, I think I needed to get to the pain point where I was like, okay, I'm done, to then realise, all right, let's take the easy route. The path has been laid. Just walk along it as well. Yeah. So now I'm basically running the business. That's incredible. I've hijacked it. Yeah. That's how it is.
So, and obviously at the start, was your wife investing away from home?
Yeah. So both.
You invested 200 miles away from home. So was your wife investing 200 miles away from home?
Yeah. So we were both investing. So we lived together at the time, all good down south, and then we were looking for where would we want to invest. And courses will tell you to do a certain thing, or they used to tell you to do a certain thing. And so we were looking at different areas. I think we narrowed it down to like Leeds, Sheffield and Liverpool. And no slight on the two that we didn't invest in, but we just said, where do we want to go and actually enjoy? We'd never been to Liverpool together, so let's go and explore Liverpool. It turned out that it was a city of culture at the time, so there was money coming in. So we're like, let's just go there and let's start investing in Liverpool. So we started investing in Liverpool, expanded to St Helens, an obvious kind of step because it's on the doorstep. Gone into Burnley, Blackpool, Fleetwood, Weaverham, like, we're looking all over Northwest. And now we live up here. Everything's on your doorstep. We've got no excuse.
Yeah, and you moved up here because of the property investing, is that right?
Yeah, so we'd both been able to leave our jobs and we just said, should we move? Like, our families have moved away from us, which probably says a lot about us, but they moved away from us. So we're like, okay, so what do? We can stay where we were, or we can make things a little bit easier, a little bit more interesting, move. So everything's on our doorstep. So we moved up north. Best decision by far. 2019 we moved up. Obviously 2020 then happened. So, like, what would have happened within property for us if we'd still been down south? We can't come up here every day to invest because we'd be on the road every day. We'd get called out on it eventually. So being on the doorstep was really helpful because in my mind, I could always get a slap on the wrist for this, but property was still an essential service. So I was going out doing direct to vendor during lockdown. That's where we started direct to vendor, exactly there. It was that point, and we just did letter campaigns because everyone's at home. So everyone's going to have to read their letters because they're desperate for communication. Let's get in front of people.
Do you know what? I wanted to touch on the direct to vendor thing because you're massively passionate about direct to vendor, and I love direct to vendor. The last two I bought have been direct to vendor.
Oh, mega.
So I enjoy it. I love it.
Tell me your secrets. We can share secrets.
Do you know what? I was going to ask you, I wanted you to debate with me this. Like, I personally think, tell me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you want to give away your secret sauce.
Mate, I'm an open book.
I don't think there is any secrets to it personally.
No.
I think it's just consistency. What do you think?
100%.
Yeah.
I think the feedback that I get from a lot of people is they're worried about the what ifs. What if somebody says to me, why are you sending a letter through my door? How did you get my details? Like, I've had all that.
Yeah.
And that's where I think my old job has prepared me for that kind of confrontation. And like, that is never my intent. My intent is always with the best intentions, but I appreciate how it's received, fully appreciate it. So I think that turns a lot of people off, but it's just consistency and being brave enough, maybe. I don't know, is brave the right word? To just go out your comfort zone.
I completely agree. I'll give you one. I don't know how, not legal this is, but I basically, I seen a house. Luckily, again, we invest where we live, so it's good. We go on walks and whatever, and we walked past this house, and I was like, that is blatantly empty. Like, you know, there's a mattress in the window and whatever. And sometimes you do a search, and someone's registered. They're registered to that house, aren't they, or something? And you're just thinking, you know, they obviously don't live there, whatever. But being local, I just went on Facebook, searched Facebook. I can't remember if she had mutual friends. I might be lying there, but it said, you know, the area. So I just messaged her, and I was just, you know, apologise. Like, I'm so sorry to bother you. Do you own this house?
Yeah.
I'm interested in buying. If not, so sorry, ignore me. And she went, you must be like a psychic. I'm about to sell this. I'm really like about to sell this house. I've been trying to sell it for years, but never put it on for an agent because I'm embarrassed, because it was just so in such a bad state and whatever. And I just, like, I remember saying to my girlfriend, just saying, like, should I send this, or is this a bit creepy? She was like, don't be sending that. It's creepy. It's really creepy. And I thought, what's the worst that can happen? She can go, fuck off, you weirdo. Or I don't know, but But is there, so what do you do then? Is it, I know you're big on leaflets, aren't you?
No, so slight twist to that. Letters is where I've done leaflets. I've had results, and we were going to be buying something through it, but then they opted to refinance our own property. Fine. Leaflets for me doesn't have the same impact as a letter, because I think it's the perception. Everything's got a pro and con to it, hasn't it? If I send a letter to you, it's handwritten, so you think, okay, so this person is a real person rather than a company. But the time it takes to write that letter, does it look more unprofessional? These are all the considerations that go around in my head for every decision I make with direct to vendor. Messaging someone on Facebook, I've got no shame with that. Put it in a Facebook group, of course. If I've been told it's empty, it's a problem for somebody. Maybe they don't know about it. That's how I perceive it. And even as I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, okay, I can see how I'm definitely writing my own narrative with this. But I think your intent was good, right? You were trying to find out about a property. You were humble enough to say, listen, if it's not you, I'm real sorry, I'll back off. And it just happened to be the right time. Those situations, it's the leverage point, isn't it? It's why would somebody be in that position, and why would they not put something on the market? And a lot of the time it's shame. I spoke to somebody yesterday. They called me, if I can just quickly tell the story.
Go on.
Somebody called me after a letter. I sent them 2 letters, and only 2 letters, which is unusual for me. And they called me at night time and said, hi, I've got your letter. I just wanted you to know that I am considering selling. I was like, okay, cool, let's have that conversation. And he sounded quite elderly. So I'm obviously conscious of the fact that there's maybe damage to the property. He then described the condition of his property. He's had no central heating for 5 years. He's got a leak coming through his ceiling for 5 years. And he's living in reduced space. I'm like, I'll be honest with you, it sounds like that actually needs solving quite soon. Like, do you want me to get a plumber to come out to you? He's like, no, because it needs pub. I'm like, that's fine, we can get it solved. Like, you shouldn't be living like that. And I spoke to him again yesterday, and he's like, no, I'm going to sort a few things out first before I consider selling it. But that sort of situation is what I'm envisaging for a lot of people, where the house is empty and in a bad condition because you can see it from roadside. So why wouldn't I take the time to put in the effort to go and message them? Facebook groups, land registry to find their name, do they live at a different address, speak to neighbours. Those are the kind of 4 main points that I go to. There are other routes you can go. Private investigator is a route I've gone before. That's been helpful, but there's cost involved in it. I just want to get to the decision maker and find out from them once and for all, is there anything I can do to help? If not, I'll spend my time elsewhere, and that's fine. Yeah,
that's interesting, yeah. But I think, like you say, a lot of it is shame. This lady who I ended up that property I ended up buying, and she was just ashamed of the property, and it wasn't about, she didn't live there, but it was just, she owned it, and I don't know, she felt responsible maybe, and she'd let someone in, and they trashed it, and there was, I'm not even going to say what was in there. It was minging, it was moody, like what was in there. So I got it cleared out for her. Like, I paid like $2,500 to get it cleared out before, you know, any contracts of, which is probably stupid on my part, but I just had good faith in, you know, that she would sell to me, and she did. But yeah, I think like we were saying, it's just consistency with it. There was another one. where I went past the house and I seen, again, blatantly empty. There was metal shutters on the windows. And I was going to do a search, and I thought, you know what, let me just ring the security company.
Yeah.
So I did, rang them and said, can I have the owner's details? But I kind of said, can you let them know? Yeah. And I knew they wouldn't. So I was just, like you said, just been a pain in the arse ringing them. Can you please? Yeah. A few weeks later, I get a call off solicitor. Oh, this one's going into auction. However, we'll sell it to you privately. Yeah. We've also got another one that he has. Just consistency. But I think a lot of people, I don't know, but I don't reckon many people would be ringing and ringing. Maybe seeing the sign and ringing, but then ringing consistently. Is that what you find with it? Do you think it's a graft?
Yeah, and I was thinking about this today. Even during lockdown, I got contacted by so many people who were keen to find houses for me. And I've tried to check in on some of those accounts since on Instagram, because that's where a lot of it came through. They've just disappeared completely. Now, they could have blocked me. I don't know why they would, but they could have done, right? I'll consider all options. But they've just opted not to go down that route anymore. And I think that's the same for direct to vendor. I think a lot of people put in some effort, don't get the instant rewards, and think, like, do I want to keep doing this? It's got to be an easier route. Going on market is the easier route to look at a house. But I would argue it's the most competitive route. And is that a route that everybody wants to go? It's not a route I want to go. I want to have a one-to-one conversation. What's your problem? Is it something that I can solve? Here are the options that I've got available to me. How quickly do you want it done? Let's work on it. Rather than, right, your house is on the market. How many offers have you had? Right, I can't offer you that. I'll wait around for a bit to see if it doesn't sell, and then I might come back to you. I just don't want that. I want a one-to-one. I just want human relationship. I'm desperate. That's what it is. I'm the desperate one. Oh, no. Oh, no, it's transpired.
Oh, that's funny. So is there anything else you do? You obviously do the letters. The letters, are they handwritten, are they?
So I've tested out loads with it. I mean, lockdown was long, right? So since lockdown to today, I've tested out handwritten, copied, somebody else writing it for me, printed, different styles of it, who to address it from, who to address it to, different things to put in it, everything you could think about, apart from drawings. I've written Valentine's letters to people, truthfully.
Really?
I got no responses to that. That was heartbreaking as well. I sound well desperate, don't I? I know. No, so letters, leaflets. I've got different people who do different trades looking for me. There's a bin man at the moment who's really, really good, who's hungry to find stuff for me. He's been sending me loads. Window cleaner, he's looking for stuff for us. Yeah. I think the misconception about direct to vendor is it's you and I walking the street, seeing something as we've done, and sending it a letter. And I would say it's the furthest thing from the truth. Yeah. I had a phone call with somebody on the way here, and I said to them, honestly, the way I spend my time is not the best use of it. All the other people doing the stuff to try and help me out, that's the best use of my time because they're doing it. Me driving the streets for 8 hours, is that the best use of my time? I'd argue it's not. Yeah. I find a lot, but it then takes a lot to get to the end point. Yeah. But yeah, I'll go to any ends.
Well, funnily enough, my Alman's a window cleaner. So he comes home of a night and goes, Cal, I found one, 16 Kingsley or whatever like that. So I just go on it and try and do whatever. But it's interesting and it's quite. I like playing the detective, to be honest, and I'm fine. It's just good fun, isn't it?
I enjoy the hunt. Honestly, I enjoy that part of it more than anything. Yeah. And this is where I say that my old career definitely came in handy because you'd obviously be out. Yeah. You'd be looking for stuff. I'm pretty good at being able to spot stuff and then make a judgment as to why it's like that. Yeah. And that's the bit that I enjoy. Yeah. Almost everything after that is not as fun. Yeah. Like I like the thrill of finding, but then the rest of it is just kind of monotonous. Yeah. Sounds really harsh as well. Oh.
I've got one that I'm buying in legals at the moment where I must have sent, sound like a bit of a weirdo, but I must have sent 6 letters to this person.
Over what period of time?
Over
a week.
Yeah. No, it wasn't really. Over maybe a year and a half.
That's really good. Yeah. That's reserved, I would say.
Yeah. Over a year and a half, but the only thing was, I don't know if you ever come across this, it was a P.O. box.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just sending letters. It's ended up going on with an agent, and I'm buying it. So how strange is that? So, so basically, I was sending letters, nothing. And then, I don't know if you ever come across this, but I go to the next road, see another one. Land reg check, same owner. Yeah. Obviously a company or whatever. Yeah. So send him a letter about that one, And then started doing like double letters with the both and whatever. Must have thought I was a right nutter. And anyway, I was driving past and funnily enough, a good friend of mine lives next door to this person. And if he's listening, he is a bit of a liar, this one. He is a bit of a liar. So he texts me going, oh, you're not going to believe this. There's an estate agent round ours as like the branded car and stuff. And he said, this agent's there at the house today. And I was like, come on, Reese, are you lying?
Just going to out him right there, that's his name.
Are you lying? Because I need to know, sort of thing. And he's like, I swear I'm not. So I was like, I'm going to make my way here now. If he's lying, I'm knocking on his house. So I get there. The agent's actually in there, so I know this agent so well, so I ring them, and he goes, yeah, he's in there, go and see him. So I go and see it. I've been chasing this one for like 2-3 8 years, ages, and it turns out now I'm buying it and I'm completing the next couple of months.
That's amazing.
Which is crazy. I do think I'm not spiritual, but I do think that's a universal way of like kind of saying I grafted on that probably more than I have on any others. I want to say grafting, I'm only sending letters, but consistently.
You're remembering to do it. It's a process that you've set up, right?
100%.
How do you set up your process? You got a CRM or you got Excel?
No, I don't, to be honest, I just do it. I really have. I should. That's why I wanted to pick your brain, because I know you're quite savvy to it, and I don't really know many people that. I know everyone buzzes off direct to vendor. Direct to vendor, but I don't really know many people consistently doing it.
No, I think it's a fairly sparse landscape. Yeah, because I think people don't want the effort. Yeah, I would always argue, and I'm sure your deals probably reflect the same as mine do. Like, they're the best deals I've ever done, better than anything I've ever done on market, and they will continue to be that way because it's a one-to-one conversation where someone's in a position where they're like, I just don't want the property, sell it. Yeah. So you're going to get the best deals. But yeah, we use a CRM, less annoying CRM. Interesting. It's really easy. I mean, how many CRMs are there? There's like 50. Yeah. That's just the one that we've picked. Yeah. And it's worked really well for pipeline, event reminders. It's brilliant. The only thing it doesn't do is send out letters, and we'd paid for like Land Insight or Searchland before to do that. Yeah. But they were printed letters, and I felt like I missed something by having it printed. Even though it was automated, I like the personal touch. So handwriting a letter, I can change it up, I can customise what letter it is that's going out. That's where I'm at. I think about stuff all the time, genuinely.
Because that's like you had just touched on there about like the best deals you ever had. Yeah, it's like a kind of gift and a curse to me, because I'm not at a point yet where I've started raising investor finance. Every penny counts for me, and making sure, you know, the deal, like, and it's kind of a gift and a curse in the fact that these deals that I have been doing at direct to vendor are absolutely incredible. Yeah, yeah. So now I'm like, I want that again, but it's not feasible. You know, it will come again, but not every deal's going to be like, you know, the last two, and I've sort of bought. So, but yeah, raising investor finance, and I know that's something you've sort of done. How have you managed to do that? I know you worked. Was it ex-colleagues, or was it?
There have been a couple of ex-colleagues, but I kind of cut ties with that part of my life when I left. Like, I was ready to give it up at that point because it wasn't going in a good direction for me. So I was like, okay, I need to just park this. Only speak to a few people still, and a few of those invest, which is phenomenal. One of them retired just before I left the police, which was great because they were in a position, and they'd known what we were getting up to anyway. So they were aware of what we were doing. They knew me personally. They kind of trusted the progress that we were making, and they had funds available. So it was a conversation around, and at the time it was 25K. And I remember calling them when I was in the office at work, and just having because I was working a night shift, and it was just me manning the office because I was in a specialist department. So I only needed one person. I called him, and I remember while I was having a conversation with him, I was almost backtracking as I was saying it, because it was the first time I'd had this type of conversation. And I put it out there, and he had said yes. And then I was like, but if you don't want to, it's fine. And I caught myself. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, he's just said yes. Like, let's lean into this rather than lean back. So yeah, a couple of people from previous work, some from Instagram, truthfully. And that, I think the key to it is just being out there, which is pulling back the curtain a little bit. We spoke about this just before we came on here, right? About you're doing such a good job of being visible and being out there. It's the same thing. Like, people will know what you get up to, get to like you or not like you, and then they just won't listen. Same as me on Instagram. You'll either like me and follow me, fantastic, or you'll just not. It's like, it doesn't matter. There's enough out there. So yeah, Instagram, and then people I know.
Yeah, that's interesting. And how did that sort of first conversation, going off of word for word, obviously, but how was it a case of straight out asking, or was it a case of, we've got this
it's that
opportunity, are you interested potentially?
So it's changed over time. There'll be different needs for different situations. So sometimes I'll just say, look, we're raising at the moment, are you interested, are you in a position to lend at the moment? These are the kind of terms we're thinking about. Other times it's been project specific, so this project's coming up, we're raising X, did you want to fund that? you've just got to gauge it at the time. But a lot of it is just about knowing those core things, like what's somebody's position? Do they know who you are? Do they know what you're doing? Have they shown any interest? And do you think it's worthwhile having a conversation because it's mutually beneficial? If you're ever going into it just thinking, I need to get money out of this, like I would back off altogether and just bin it, because it's not the conversation to have. It's got to work for both parties, otherwise it's not working whatsoever.
And are you constantly raising or constantly putting the feelers out and stuff?
Yeah, constant conversations every week, every month, every year, more and more conversations. Because even if we had a conversation now and I said, Cal, got a project going in the pipeline at the moment, it's coming out the back end, it's going into auction after that, looking at making X as a profit. And you say, I'm not in a position right now. And I'm like, well, the project's not going to go through until August. You're now prepped for August. And we can start to have a conversation around, well, you've got something going through or you haven't. Where are you at come August? True story this morning, texting somebody who I know quite well. They know what I do. They're doing the same type of thing as me. And I said, look, we're raising at the moment. Are you in a position? And they said, when do you need it by? I've got something going through at the moment. When it's sold, I'll probably be in a position I'd love to work together. I'm like, here's my time frame. And they're like, okay, it's not working for me right now. Do you want to be told about stuff in the future? Yeah, cool. So then we'll just check in the future. And that's the way that I like to do it, is always be having conversations and seeing, because it works both ways is the way that I view it.
Yeah.
Like we angel to people before we start. Actually, that's not true. We angel to people after we'd started borrowing money, but we've now had a taste of both sides of it. Yeah. We know what we liked as an angel, what we wanted from people, what we needed from people, and what we didn't like. And so I'm more aware now as to what you as a lender might want from me, and how can I demonstrate that and provide that to you. Yeah. So I think playing both sides of it has worked out really well.
That's interesting, that. And what, if you don't mind saying, what did you want as an angel investor? What did you want and what didn't you want? Is it update? Because I know everyone's different again.
Yeah.
Is it updates, or what did you want as an angel?
Honestly, that you've spot on. Everybody I've spoken to who's ever lent money out, including us, it's been communication every time. If anybody ever goes quiet, I think it's the worst thing in the world. And I know that they say you shouldn't over communicate. I think when it comes to your own money, you fucking can. Like, tell me everything. Tell me everything, always. I want to know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people want. People just want to know their money's coming back. And if it's not coming back in the time frame that they've said, why not? And what's happening? Yeah. True story, we've had projects, and everybody's going to have projects where this happens. A refinance or a sale hasn't gone through in time. So we're working with an angel at the moment, worked with him for a number of years, got a really good relationship. He's based out of the country, lent to us before, and we've repaid before. Particular project lent to us in, I think, August last year. We were due to have it till February, based on the sale of an asset. Sale of the asset hasn't gone through yet. It's now going through. Conversation with him before February. Timeline's a bit out right now. Here's where we're at. Here's the new timeline. Is that something that you can accommodate? Yeah. So we've just renegotiated and extended it. So now we've got it until, I think, May the 30th, I think it is. Yeah. So now we know clearly that's the new time frame. And that's just conversation. But had I stayed quiet until the very last minute, it's brown pants for everybody. Because, sorry, go on.
Sorry, no, go on.
I was going to say, because now he doesn't know where his money is. He's now losing trust in us. And all because we've just shit the bed a little bit. Just be honest. Yeah. Property isn't smooth. It's not linear. We know, you and I both know this. It will be up and down, up and down. You've just got to try and manage it and communicate with people, that's all.
Yeah. Am I right in saying that you do like a newsletter to your investors as well? Is that right?
Yeah.
That's quite, that blew my mind. That's so cool.
Did it?
Yeah, I just thought it's probably an interesting thing to do in terms of, so you're updating them on the newsletter of what's going on in the project.
Yeah, so
I love that.
I cover a few different things. So my perception was most people do this, truthfully, but then having spoken to more people, most people don't do that, which maybe I'm over communicating in that respect. But I think, we tell them what's going on in our projects, what new projects we've got coming up, what the market's doing, and kind of areas are doing, and what their other options are. Yeah. Like, I'm going to be transparent. You can get these rates through a savings account. Yeah. These are the types of lenders that are doing it right now. Yeah. As it turns out, most lenders are like, we'll give you 5%, which sounds great, but it's on a maximum of 5K for a year only, and then back down to nothing. It's like, okay, so that's not great. Yeah. But I'll always tell people what they can get.
Yeah. I love the fact that you understand the pain points as well from the other side. Like, I don't know if many people know that, do they? One thing I would like to ask is, at the time, why did you want to invest if you knew, obviously you've had property people invest in you. Yeah. Why, this is just me being curious, why did you want to invest into someone in terms of, why did you want to invest into someone when you knew?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
And for me, it comes down to, I think there's a perception that if you're in property, we wouldn't lend to each other because you're competitive, I'm competitive. We want to buy everything, of course, right? But the reality is my projects aren't going to go through at the same time frame as yours. So I'm going to have funds sitting there. Maybe I've got nothing agreed. Maybe you've got nothing agreed. So then you've got funds sitting on standby, nothing going on. And we can all be optimistic and say, I'm going to project that in 6 months I'll have something. That's great. But it's not always going to be that way. And some people, truthfully, as investors, get to the point where they think, I need to take a bit of a back step. Like, I don't want to be constantly active, going through conveyancing, refurbs. Maybe I do just want to be a bit passive. So for us, it didn't actually go into anybody that was doing property. They needed it for another purpose. But we had funds sitting there. And we just thought, what an opportune time to lend it to somebody, know what that feels like, know what the time frame is. And it was a much shorter time frame. And then we'd get to see if that can come back at any stage in the future.
Yeah, that's brilliant because one, like you say, you understand the pain points, and two, like I just done a remortgage maybe, you know, I think it was August, September time, and it was sitting, I mean, you know, you think, oh, I'm going to complete next month, and it never happens like that. And then you're sitting on a lump sum of money and you're thinking, this is killing me. Yeah. Just sitting it, like, just money sitting in the bank like that. So why not? Like, I've never thought of it from that perspective. That's really interesting.
That's the bit, and that exactly that, because we know maybe more, like we know that we should be doing more of our money. It hurts way more when it is sitting there. You can't do anything with it, and you're trying your hardest to get something out, but you're like, are there any other options? I would do it again in a heartbeat. And because I've got a decade plus in the game now, I'm like, I feel confident in having analysed enough people to know where people are at, how they operate, what I would want from people, and timeframes. So I would know where I'd go with it as well. And everybody gets to the same point where you're like, I would want to work with these people, or I wouldn't want to work with these people. And it's just, okay, a fund's available at a time where it makes sense, and then dip your toe in the water and do it.
Yeah, that's interesting, really interesting. So moving on then, HMOs, I know that's something at the start, am I right in saying you weren't keen on, or?
Do you want me to go fully in on what I actually thought? I thought, fucking definitely not. Yeah. The worst thing imaginable. And let me just tell you quickly why. My old job, a lot of my work was done in people, was working with people who were in temporary accommodation or in HMOs. And it's not the fact they were living in those environments, it was the fact that I could not understand how you can get multiple personalities living in one environment and not have issues. I could not get my head around it. And then my wife, to add on to that, was managing HMOs. And every time that I would drive her to drop her off to go and manage the HMO, it'd be grief. And I'd be like, how is this possible for people? Like, I felt for the people that were living in it, because that's not fun for anybody. But then why would I want to buy something like that? So no, I was well off of it. I was very public about saying, never. And now I'm a changed man. Yeah. I'm converted.
So at the time, was there no man? Because, you know, it's only quite recent where sort of management companies for HMOs have been around, I think. I don't know if that's wrong. At the time, was your wife managing, or do you manage anyway, but was your wife managing because there was no companies around doing management, or was it just a case of she'd rather manage it herself?
So she was working for a management company at the time.
Oh, sorry.
So when she transitioned from working in London, she came back to where we were living and was doing estate agency work and also some project management work and also some HMO management. Yeah. But that little insight for me was nah.
And when did the penny drop then?
It was forced to drop because I could see the benefit of it. Like, financially, I could see the benefit. It's a business at the end of the day, and I could see, is there a way where I'd be comfortable, and like, what would make me comfortable doing it? Yeah. And the privately rented sector is either doing it really high spec, but I'd still heard horror stories from that, as you would do in any environment, right? You could have a homeowner being a nightmare, but if I'm willingly buying an asset, I want to make it as least stressful as possible. Like, I'm in it, I appreciate I got a lot of grey, but I'm in it for the long term, not to have a load of stress. So yeah, what would I need to see from an HMO to be happy? How could I get that? And it was social housing, because longer term leases, they manage all the tenants, they cover all maintenance, apart from exceptional stuff like a new roof, damp proof course, etc. And you can go and visit the property without actually having to pay out management fees and stuff like that. So it just made sense on so many levels for me. And like, if you want to look at kind of the moral thought of it, it's that you're helping other people, which like that is obviously a part of it. But truthfully, I was driven mainly by how's this going to be least stressful for me, and that's what I looked for. Yeah,
that's an energy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I do think now HMOs are the way. So my goal is to maybe, you know, do a couple of flips, build a bit of pot of cash.
Yeah. Angel finance.
And angel finance. That's a big goal for me this year, just to start raising some money. Because I've always used my own money, and it gets you to a point, but you can only use it for so long, can't you?
Yeah, growth tends to come from collaborating with other people, whether that's angel finance or people sourcing new stuff. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Do you use sources?
Yeah, have done.
Do you?
When we live down south, yeah. When we live up here, project that's being done at the moment, an HMO, We're combining worlds here. So it's a social HMO that was found by a sourcing agent, found on market. And people will cry about that all day long and say, well, why would you pay a sourcing agent to find something that you could find? I'm out on the street looking for stuff. I'm not going to spend my time on Rightmove. Someone else, the way that I would probably simply say it is, the more eyes you've got looking for you, the better. And other people are going to be better at negotiating or have better relationships with people that can find stuff. That's why I think sourcing agents, good sourcing agents, and that's the key, good sourcing agents are well worth the money. I'd pay out for it all day, every day.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, completely. People, I get it. People look at the cost of something. I look at what that cost is getting me. And if I have to pay 3K to get a deal that I never would have got otherwise, I'd pay that because I'm anticipating that comes off of what's being calculated into what I'm actually paying for the overall deal anyway. That's what a good sourcing agent does. But I think that's probably another podcast with somebody who deals with sources or is a sourcer, because there's a lot of shady sourcing agents who don't actually provide a real service.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
And did you ever think about when you were obviously went into the property game, did you ever think about maybe sourcing or any other strategies at all?
Yeah, I had a headache with it as well.
Did you?
So we did sourcing for a while, for a short while. Again, that provided headaches. And I'll always take responsibility for everything. But there's a caveat to that. When I've done everything imaginable based on the contract that we've got with somebody, and then they still don't do what they say, I'm loath to refund any money out of that. We did to just split amicably, but I'm like, this is not right. Like, I'm not doing this again. So I moved away from sourcing real quick because I'm like, it's working with other people that I thought I'd qualified. I probably need to improve my qualification process. But the long story short was, our contract said, we're going to do this, you're going to do that, provided you do everything within a timely fashion and complete. Happy days. If the deal falls through and it's based on timeliness, that comes down to you because we've done everything we can. The seller's done everything they can. Yeah. And they were really slow with everything. They refused our help with a solicitor and a broker, and eventually it fell down. I'm like, this is not right. Because now you've effed off the seller, who's now mad at me. Yeah. And now I'm getting it. Like, that's not right.
And at this point, were you sort of still heavy direct to vendor?
No, that was all on market at that stage. That one came from a secondary sourcing agent. Somebody had brought it to me saying, look, I need to get this moved because one deal's already fallen through. So the seller already was a bit antsy about it.
Oh, God.
And I thought I had a sure buyer. And I'd given my word, this person's going to buy it. And then when it took effing forever, I'm like, I've just let them down. That's honestly how I felt. Forget the money, fuck the money, I couldn't care less. My word was broken at that point. I'm like, maybe to save face, I'm like, I'm going to dip out of sourcing. It's not for me anymore. But like, I feel like, again, having played both sides of it, being a sourcer and worked with sourcing agents, I feel like I've got a fairly well-rounded view of it.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Because I've been looking at potentially doing some. I don't want to say like I was touched on earlier. Are you going to
source?
I don't know. I get a lot of deals. Like, I get a lot of deals coming to me
based on your background.
I don't want to say. I don't know really. I just get a lot of deals coming across the table, and I see, and a lot of direct to vendor ones that come to me, and I just think I'm not interested in that. And my brother's kind of into property, so I'll pass it to him, or I'll pass it to a friend for free, just for the sake of whatever. I can't help, but these might be able to. My friend also has a estate agency, so I pass to him. But I just think, like, is it worth sourcing? And I can't be bothered with a headache. I just, like you say, I just want a stress-free life. Do you know what I mean? No. I don't want a headache. That's why I've always done single let. You get someone in, it's managed. I think we're quite similar in a way, Keith. Like, I just want a stress-free life at the end of the day.
That's why we're all doing it, right? We're doing it to have a different life, but it's about having choices, and you're not going to choose stress willingly. Yeah. I would imagine.
No, you're right.
I've probably got a solution for those properties, though. We'll have a chat afterwards, but I think I might have a solution for you.
Do you think?
Yeah, actually, like a reliable one. And that's the key to sourcing is the person that we're buying this most recent deal from, we've worked with before. They know we're a good buyer. They know how we operate. So there are no headaches with it. Yeah. Whereas if you work with a new client, there's all the not knowing how they're going to operate. And what about if this goes wrong? How are they going to react? You just want to work with repeat business. That's what everybody wants. You just want repeat business, security in what you're doing, and then you can all move forward. And that's where I think sourcing is really difficult. Like, if you're working with new clients constantly, it's a lot to manage. Like, credit to the people who do it really well, because they do a phenomenal job. Yeah.
Well, today, literally, we had Paul Stapleton on, and the way he does it is, like, streamlined. It's incredible. He sells sort of tenanted properties to, like, high net worth individual, and it's just incredible the way he does it, and it's so streamlined, and I just think, wow, that is incredible. But like you say, we all know how your typical investor is. They want all money out. They want, do you know what I mean? We know how they are.
Of course,
and I'm the same. So
definitely,
rightly so. But But yeah, interesting then. So you are a fan of HMOs now then?
Certain ones, yeah. Social HMOs, yeah.
Social HMOs.
Lack of headaches, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think social housing companies probably get a bad rap. Definitely get a bad rap.
They do, yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. Why social housing then? How does that work in terms of, like, I know the concept of it, but for people listening maybe, how does that work, and what are the, you know, to your tip, you've got social housing HMO and then you've got a professional HMO.
Yeah.
What's the sort of difference in terms of profits at the end of the day?
Yeah, that's a fair one. So I can tell you this from a live example from somebody that I'm potentially managing their transition from a privately rented HMO into a social HMO, not in the northwest, but in the northeast. So it'd be going to a social housing provider over there. They currently get just north of 2,000 a month from a 6-bed, and from a social HMO they'd be getting about 1,400 a month. So there's obviously a bit of a gap there. Oh no, sorry, might be 1,600. My mistake, 1,600. So there's obviously a bit of a gap there that they've got to make up. But within that, you've got to think, if it's privately rented, you're paying for bills, you're paying for management, you're paying for maintenance. So you remove those 3 things straight away, and now you've got, so once all those deductions have gone, is that going to be equal to the social HMO? And even if it's not, even if the privately rented still makes more, you've got a 5-year lease for a social HMO. So, sorry, I've gone off on a tangent there, but to answer your question directly, so social HMOs, you provide an asset, and it doesn't have to be an HMO, it could be a single let for social housing, but you provide an asset, they say yes based on a postcode, because they go through the council for it to see if there's demand. Once they've said yes and you're happy to hand it over, they will come to site, they will assess it based on what you've said you'll do with it. They'll give you some input, and they like a bit of input. They'll give you some input, and then you convert it. Once it's been converted, they will come out again, they will assess it. Once that's happened, you pass it over to them, they sign off on it, and they provide you with a lease for, it'll be by default 7 years. Lenders don't like a 7-year lease because they see it as too high risk, so they want it a 5-year lease. There are less lenders as well for social housing. You'll get a 5-year lease, which will say we will cover all maintenance within the property. Your rent is guaranteed. Even if the room's all empty, you're still getting your rent. And at the end of the 5 years, we can either have a conversation about retaining it or hand it back to you. Now, having been at a seminar recently with a social housing provider, there's a lot of demand and it's not going away anytime soon, which is the sad thing. The positive of that from an investor standpoint is there's going to be demand, which means at the end of 5 years, they're probably still going to need your asset. And even if they've not got the contract to do it for the whole of that area, so Serco operate within the Northwest, even if they don't have the contract anymore, somebody else is going to have to step in and fill that problem. So you can be fairly confident it's going to continue for a while.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I wanted to touch on the point as well where you said about obviously mortgageability. I don't know if you or your wife have any other businesses, but I know mortgage lenders are a bit funny with sort of property business owners, basically property investors, basically. So I've always thought, oh God, last thing I want to do is, you know, get on a bridge, do a house up, and then I can't mortgage it or something. How I know you're not a mortgage advisor, but how has lending been on them?
There's less lenders, 4 to 5 is what I found predominantly. I won't bother naming them in case they change, but yeah, they're always all right because they know what they're getting into. As a result of that, I think the rates are slightly higher than you would get for privately rented, but they're still fairly reasonable. At the time of recording this, they're around kind of 5.9-ish, 6. But you just calculate it when you're doing the deal in the first place. When you're doing through your numbers, you're just calculating, all right, I'm probably going to have to pay 6.5% on interest only if that's what you're doing. What's my cash flow? Does it make sense? What's the ROI?
And it's the same, I imagine. Again, I'm not educated in this sort of sector at all, but same sort of, you know, fire alarms, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the full works. Nothing is different from a privately rented HMO apart from maybe standard. The standard is more kind of basic. And that's their request is that it's that basic. But yeah, we're doing one at the moment which is on a bridge, to go back to your original point. It's 100% bridge lending. We know what the exit is for it, so we know what the end value is. So on refinance, that will all be paid back. If it was to extend in terms of remortgaging it, we'd speak to the bridging company beforehand and say, listen, it's going to run over a bit. So they would just extend the bridge. There's a fee involved, obviously. They have to make money. So that's the thing you have to think about, is all of those painful fees. But yeah, from a social HMO standpoint, standard is exactly the same. Fire alarms, interlinked smoke alarms, fire doors, slow close hinges, the works. But they'll get their own fire risk assessment onto it and tell you.
Oh, cool. Well, it's the funny thing about lenders is, obviously, they don't want to go into lenders too much, but it's like they want security. You can't have much more secure than a contract lease and they're still funny about lending on it, which is bizarre. But
they view it as a risk. They view the tenant type as a risk.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand, but then I don't work behind the scenes. But I think even if there's a turnover of tenants, if the company, so Serco would be the tenant, we're still the landlord, they're the tenant. Just because they've given you a lease, they're not a landlord, we are. So Serco are the tenant, and they view that as a risk because their tenant type is asylum seekers. I don't get it, because even if there are tenants in there who have to be removed for varying reasons, they get replaced by somebody else, because at the moment they're all in hotels. That's not fair on anybody. So there's going to be a constant flow of people. Rent is guaranteed to be paid. I don't know if lenders don't trust the government contracts. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to question it. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, that's it. So 2024 then, what are your sort of goals? What are you planning on?
Less stress would be amazing. Truthfully, 2023, I ended it and I was broken. Like it was a hard year. Like towards the end of the year, it was really hard. And then 2024, I took most of January out. I was like, I need to do something different. And it made a massive difference. Yeah. But I wanted to see, like, is this achievable for the whole year, or will our business just flop? Now, the business didn't flop, but I'm like, okay, there were things that need to be checked in on regularly and progressed. So for this year, it's going to be heavy direct to vendor, almost entirely, with a view to flip everything, trade it or flip it. That's my route.
Yeah. The one I've just got was in... I was debating on trading it, and then I just thought in the end I'll keep it because I got it again direct to vendor. Yeah. You know, we got it. I think we picked it up for we did pick it up for 110, and next up at one sold for 140.
Oh, that's a quick profit.
Yeah, and granted, it was a little bit better condition, but it did still need the works. You know what I mean? But still a little bit better condition. Maybe But anyway, so I just started thinking towards the end, like I'm on a bridge here. I wanted to get into the HMO market. Is it worth just literally sticking in the auction and just making maybe 10, 15, 20 grand like that?
Yeah.
Not like that, because it was 8-9 months bloody conveyancing, which is the pain of direct to vendor, unfortunately. I don't know, how have you found that, by the way? Have you found long conveyancing processes, or?
It varies. I think when you're speaking one-to-one with somebody, they don't. That's the really good thing about agents, right? Like they can guide and they can provide that input and they can give a bit of a blueprint. Whereas when it's a one-to-one, you have to be that person for them. And it can take some kind of pushing along to make sure they're going in the right direction, checking in with them. Have you got this? Do you need anything? But without overstepping the mark. So it can be longer, but equally depends on the seller, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If it's a landlord who just wants rid because they're living in Abu Dhabi and they don't want their house anymore, that's an easy sell because they're going to be motivated to get rid. Whereas if it's somebody who lives there and it needs a ton of work and they've got no move on, that's a long process.
Yeah.
It's just pipeline, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, one we did, it was like a messy... you know, one of them wanted to sell, one of them did want to sell, but was being hard work because the wife wanted it. Oh, it was a nightmare. Like, divorce, and one of them lived in Australia, and I thought... And that took 9 months, but again, worth it, but it was just like a headache. It was an absolute headache. But yeah, that one anyway, 110, next up at one sold for 140. So I thought, you know what, do we just trade it? And then the day I was completing, I still weren't sure. Well, about a week before I was completing, I weren't sure, should I do it, should I not? And the day I was meant to be completing the auction was happening. Obviously, they have a cut-off date anyway, so I just thought, you know what, balls to it. I'll just leave. Yeah, I'll just keep hold of it. But
there's no lose though, is there? That's the crazy thing. Like we bought something off market before, and we were told by an agent, if you just stuck this back on the market now, you would make X profit, and that's the exact profit that we made. Had we done a full 2-story extension, we made the exact same profit. Like 2 years later, it's just like, why did we do all that?
100.
Why didn't we just stick it back? Like,
yeah.
But we learned so much from the process.
Yeah.
So I can't dismiss that.
Yeah. I had the exact same situation. But the more I think about it, I actually used to work in a estate agency, and I know how many houses fall through. Yeah. So you've got to think, especially if you're on a bridge, you're holding that property, and then people are pulling out, and you're stressing out, and you think, I could be done on this refurb and refinanced. Auction route obviously completely different, but
you might take less.
Yeah.
I mean, what we're talking about here, like, it's a privileged position all the way around, right?
Yeah.
You've got a property, I've got a property. Do we just make a bit more profit from selling it on market, but it might fall through, or do we stick it in auction, make a bit less, but it's a guaranteed sale? It's like, there's no lose there, is it? It's just, but I think it's human nature to always look back and think, could have done something different. It would have been less stress.
Yeah.
But I don't regret the decisions that we made, not whatsoever.
No. So, Keith, thank you for coming on. It was a great conversation. I enjoyed speaking to you. And I felt selfishly, I just enjoyed speaking to you and just picked your brain, because it's not often that you see speak to someone who's like heavily into direct to vendor. Like I say, people are on and off it, and people are doing it, but I don't think people are doing it consistently. Maybe they are. Apologies if they are, but it was just intriguing to speak to someone who's quite like into it and stuff. But if anyone is looking to connect or invest or whatever, where is the best place to find you?
Like a lot of people, Instagram, Keith Firmin Property, or can I give out my phone number? 07309 686 200 is legit.
Oh, fair. Do you want to do it again?
07309 686 200.
Fair dues. I've never seen anyone do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like going back to what we said earlier, it's about how can you be contacted,
yeah.
how can you get in front of people.
Brilliant.
People want to have a conversation, happy days.
Yeah, spot on. Keith,
Mate,
thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, mate.